Your brain has a word count limit for guilt, and most people blow through it before 10 a.m. without even noticing. Here's the number that should bother you. The average person says yes to something they don't want to do about 17 times a week. That's not a typo, 17. That's basically 2.5 times a day you're handing over a piece of your life to someone else because your brain convinced you saying no was dangerous. Compare that to the fact that most people can only make about 35,000 decisions a day before mental fatigue sets in, and you start to see the math.
Boundaries aren't a personality trait some people have and others don't. They're a resource you're bleeding out of a hole you don't even know exists. Here's the part nobody tells you. The guilt you feel when you say no isn't about the other person at all. It's not empathy, it's not kindness, it's not being a good person. It's your brain running a threat detection program that was built for a world that doesn't exist anymore. 10,000 years ago, getting kicked out of your tribe meant you died. No backup, no other village down the road, no options.
So your brain wired rejection and disappointment into the same category as physical danger. Fast forward to today, and that circuitry is still running, except now it fires when you decline a dinner invite or tell your coworker you can't take on their project. Your brain genuinely cannot tell the difference between I might get exiled from my tribe and my sister is annoyed I'm not coming to brunch. Same alarm, same flood of chemicals, same tight chest and racing thoughts. This is why willpower doesn't fix boundary problems. You can know, logically, that saying no is fine.
You can have the script memorized, and you'll still feel like you're about to get hit by a truck the second the words are about to leave your mouth. That's not a character flaw. That's your amygdala doing exactly what it's designed to do, just aimed at the wrong target. So if logic doesn't work, what does? This is where it gets interesting, because the brain has a loophole, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your brain doesn't actually respond to truth. It responds to framing.
Two people can experience the exact same event and walk away with completely different emotional reactions, purely based on how their brain labeled it in the moment. Someone tells you they're starving after skipping lunch, and someone else says they're a little hungry after skipping the same lunch. Same blood sugar, same missed meal, totally different felt experience because of the words their brain used to file it. Boundaries work the same way. If your internal script says, I'm letting someone down, your brain treats that as a threat and floods you with guilt.
If your internal script says, I'm keeping a promise to myself, your brain treats that as loyalty, which is one of the most rewarded behaviors in the human nervous system. Same action, same no, completely different chemical response, just from changing 4 words in your head before you speak. This is the first trick, and it sounds almost too simple to work, which is exactly why most people skip it and stay stuck. Before you say no to anything, you silently answer one question first. Who am I being loyal to right now? Not who am I disappointing? Who am I being loyal to? The second your brain locks on to loyalty instead of rejection, the entire threat response changes shape. You stop bracing for impact and start standing on solid ground. Because loyalty doesn't trigger the exile alarm. Betrayal does. And saying no to protect your time isn't betrayal. It's just been mislabeled that way your whole life. But here's where most people mess it up. And this is the part that actually explains why you've tried to set boundaries before and it didn't stick. You made the mistake of trying to explain yourself.
Every extra sentence you add after no is your brain begging for permission it doesn't need. Watch how this plays out. Someone asks you for a favor. You say no, and then your mouth keeps moving. No, I can't because I have this thing, and also my kid has practice, and I'm just really slammed this week, and I promise next time. That's not politeness. That's your nervous system trying to build a legal case for why you're allowed to exist without saying yes. And here's the kicker. The more you explain, the more the other person's brain reads it as negotiable. You just handed them the exact spot to push back on. Every because is a door you left open. The second trick flips this completely. You give the no, and then you stop talking. And you let the silence sit there, even when it feels unbearable. Silence after a boundary feels like the longest 3 seconds of your life the first few times you do it. Your brain will scream at you to fill it, to soften it, to apologize your way out of the discomfort. This is the exact moment most people fold. But that silence is doing something specific.
It's signaling to your own nervous system that the sentence is complete, that it didn't need backup, that it survived without you propping it up. Every time you let a no stand on its own without justifying it, you're literally rewiring the alarm system to expect less danger next time. It's the same principle as exposure therapy, except instead of facing a fear of heights, you're facing the fear of being disliked for 4 seconds at a time. Now, here's something that's going to reframe every boundary conversation you've ever had.
And it's the reason guilt sticks around even after you've done everything right. Your brain doesn't actually care about the other person's reaction. It cares about your prediction of their reaction. Those are two completely different things, and almost nobody separates them. You imagine your friend being hurt. You imagine your boss being annoyed. You imagine your mom giving you that look, and your body reacts to the imagined version exactly as strongly as it would to the real one. This is why you can feel guilty about a no before you've even said it.
Sometimes days before, over a conversation that hasn't happened yet and might go completely fine. You're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to a movie your brain wrote and cast without asking you. This is where the third trick comes in, and it's the one that makes the first two actually stick long term. Instead of trying to stop the movie, which is nearly impossible, you change who's watching it. Right before you set a boundary, you picture someone you deeply respect, someone whose opinion actually matters to you, watching you do it. Not the person you're saying no to, someone else entirely. A mentor, a grandparent, a version of yourself 10 years from now. Your brain is obsessed with social approval. That part never turns off. So instead of fighting that wiring, you redirect it. You let it seek approval from an audience that would be proud of you for holding the line, instead of an audience that benefits from you folding. Same brain chemistry, completely different outcome, because you changed whose applause you're chasing. And this is the piece that ties the whole thing together, because none of this works if you're doing it as a one-time event. Your brain doesn't build new pathways from a single dramatic moment. It builds them from repetition, the same boring way it learned to be scared of disappointing people in the first place. Every rejected favor, every skipped obligation as a kid, every time you were made to feel like too much, that was repetition building the guilt response, brick by brick. Undoing it takes the same process in reverse. Small no's. Boring, low-stakes, unremarkable no's said over and over until your nervous system stops treating them like an emergency. You don't need one big, brave confrontation. You need 40 tiny, unremarkable ones that nobody even remembers by the next day. Here's the thing that will probably bother you the most out of everything you've heard so far. The people who guilt you the hardest for having boundaries are almost never the people who respect you the most. Respect and comfort are not the same currency, and most people confuse them their whole lives. The friend who gets a little cold when you say no isn't measuring your character, they're measuring their own convenience, and those are two completely different scales. Once you separate those, the guilt starts losing its grip, because you stop mistaking someone's disappointment for evidence that you did something wrong.
Every boundary you've ever been afraid to set was never really about the other person's reaction. It was about a 10,000-year-old alarm system mistaking a mild inconvenience for a life-threatening exile. And the moment you see that clearly, you realize the guilt was never protecting your relationships. It was just protecting the alarm. If any of this saved you from an awkward yes you didn't want to give, you can buy me a coffee through the link in the description. It genuinely helps keep this channel going.